Good morning. I'm going to call to order this April 21st City of Santa Rosa Zoning Administrator meeting, which is scheduled to begin at or after 10:30 a.m. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E and the recommendation of the Health Officer of the County of Sonoma, this meeting will be conducted by Zoom webinar. Members of the public can participate virtually at zoom.us/join or toll-free telephone by dialing 877-853-5257. And the meeting ID number is 829-5237-8652. And this meeting is also being live streamed at youtube.com/City of Santa Rosa. Today's meeting is a regular session meeting, and the zoning administrator typically holds 2 meetings per month on the first and third Thursdays. This is the second regular session meeting of this month, and our next regular meeting will be held on May 5th. Members of the public accessing this meeting through Zoom can participate by providing comments during the public comment periods. And additional information related to meeting participation is available at srcity.org/zoning-admin. So next, we'll move on to item number 2, which is general public comment. This is a time that members of the public can speak for 3 minutes on any matters that are not included on today's agenda. So I'll go ahead and open general public comment.
If you wish to make a comment, please raise your hand by clicking on that hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're dialing in, please press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute once you are called upon. Zoning Administrator Nicholson, it doesn't look like any hands are raised at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will conclude general public comment and move on to item number 3, which is zoning administrator business. The zoning administrator is appointed by the Planning and Economic Development Director and has the responsibility and authority to conduct public hearings and take action on applications for all administrative permits and approvals issued by the department. Any determination or decision made by the zoning administrator may be appealed. And I have no zoning administrator reports today. So we will move on to item 4 on today's agenda, which is for consent items. We do have one consent item, which is a zoning code interpretation number 22001. And this pertains to zoning code section 20-48-040 subsection C5, and this relates to application requirements, and also zoning code section 20-48-040L, which relates to appeals, and this is related to the short-term rental ordinance. Planner Meads, can you provide a brief summary of this zoning code interpretation, please?
Yes, good morning, Zoning Administrator Nicholson. Thank you for that introduction. So zoning code interpretation number 22-001 is to clarify that the Director of Planning and Economic Development Department is the review authority for short-term rental permit review, and that the Planning Commission is the review authority for the appeal of any director determinations on short-term rental permits.
Okay, thank you so much. And can you explain a bit about the process after this is acted on? Just how it will pertain to projects moving forward and how it gets incorporated into the city zoning code?
Certainly. So this zoning code interpretation is circulated to all the review authorities of the city and throughout the department, so that any appeals moving forward towards short-term rental permit decisions by the director would then be heard by the Planning Commission.
Okay, great. Thank you. I don't believe I have any questions. It's very straightforward, and I understand the necessity of this interpretation. So I will be signing it, and it will become effective. So thank you for providing that background today. I just wanted to provide an opportunity if anyone has any public comments on the zoning code interpretation.
Zoning Administrator Nicholson, it doesn't look like there are any hands raised at this time.
Okay, thank you, Secretary Buckeye. That concludes item number 4. Thank you so much, Planner Meads. Okay, moving on to item 5, which includes our scheduled items. We do have 4 meeting items today. So for each item, I will ask the project planner for a staff presentation, and an applicant can provide a presentation as well, or any comments are fine. Following these presentations, I may ask clarifying questions of the project planner or the applicant. I will then open the meeting for public comment about the item being reviewed, and members of the public are invited to provide comments about each project. After public comment is concluded, I may ask additional questions, and then we'll issue a decision to approve, deny, or continue the item for further review. Just as a reminder, today's decisions by the zoning administrator are appealable to the Planning Commission, Design Review Board, or Cultural Heritage Board. And those appeal bodies depend on the type of entitlement being acted upon. If you have any questions about the appeal process, please contact the project planner, but know that appeals must be filed within 10 calendar days after the date of the decision. And if that falls on a weekend, then that would be the Monday following that weekend date. So our first item, which is item 5.1, this is a public hearing to consider minor design review for Dish Wireless, which is located at 4415 Highway 12. And the staff presentation today will be given by Planner Toomians.
Thank you, Ms. Nicholson. Let me share my PowerPoint here. So as you stated, this is a co-location request at 4415 Highway 12. Let me advance the slide. And it's to, the applicant is requesting to co-locate 3 new antennas on a privately owned rooftop where there is existing wireless equipment already located. The property is off of Highway 12, not too far from Mission Boulevard, on top of the roof of an office building. The applicant has provided 3 photo simulations from different views of the rooftop. This is existing and proposed looking northeast along Highway 12. There is a parapet along the roof. The existing wireless towers are visible from public right-of-way, but it's an existing situation. This is the view looking west along Highway 12, and you can see where the proposed antennas would be located. Here's a site plan showing where the 3 antennas would be installed and the associated equipment. Here are elevations showing the antennas. There were no public comments, no inquiries, no interest at all from the public on this project. And this project was reviewed in compliance with CEQA, and it qualifies for a Class 3 exemption under 15301, in that the proposed change does not substantially change the physical dimensions of the tower or base station, and the roof is acting as the base station, and that's why this is considered a co-location. If the Planning and Economic Development Department recommends that the zoning administrator by resolution approve a minor design review permit for the property located at 4415 Highway 12. And my contact information is listed that bottom corner there if the public has any comments or questions.
Thank you, Ms. Tumians. Does the applicant wish to make any comments or provide a presentation?
I don't think they are present.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I have two questions. One is that this was noticed as a public hearing, which is not what we typically do for zoning administrator meetings, but it is an option. So I was just hoping you might be able to explain why this was noticed as a public hearing instead of a public meeting.
Yes, the government jurisdictions are required to act on these co-location requests in a timely manner. And the way the zoning administrator meeting is held, it can either be a public meeting or a public hearing. If we were running against a shot clock issue with this project, and if I had scheduled this as a public meeting and someone requested a hearing, it would add an additional delay that we couldn't really afford in this case. So I proactively scheduled this for a public hearing to avoid that. And it just so happens that there is very little interest in this project. So
Great, thank you for that explanation. And then my other question is, I noticed that there's residential uses nearby, and this the distance is adequate for what's required in the zoning code from a residential use.
yes, and it appears, you know, that the building is set as far forward or as far away from the residential units as possible, and the antennas are set in such a way that they do provide adequate distance.
Great, thank you. And I guess I have one additional question. The applicant has reviewed the resolution and accepted the conditions.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for those responses. I will go ahead and open public comment for this item. If you're interested in providing a comment, please go ahead and raise your hand on Zoom.
Zoning Administrator Nicholson, there are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Okay, in reviewing the resolution, I don't have any concerns. I think all the findings can be made. I realize that these aren't screened. However, you know, based on the dimensions of the equipment, it doesn't appear that extending a parapet and a solid feature would really, I think, be helpful. It seems like it would detract more and make a much larger appearing building. So I do find the change to be negligible, and that the existing antennas are of the same size essentially, and the view shown in the photo sims makes that pretty clear. So I will be approving this, although I did want to just ask you, Planner Tumians, on the resolution, if we can, there's a whereas statement related to public hearing. If we can just correct it to say that it was noticed as a public hearing, and maybe add in something about the shot clock, just so if we look back in the record, it shows that it was noticed as a public hearing. I think that would be helpful, but I will be signing the resolution after we make that adjustment. And thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, I can do that.
Great. Okay, that concludes our first item. So let's move on to item 5.2. This is a public meeting to consider a minor conditional use permit for the Leigh Ellen Manor Community Care Facility located at 597 Granberg Court. And our project planner is Ms. Tumians again.
Thank you again, Ms. Nicholson. So this is a proposed minor conditional use permit at 597 Grandberg for Lee Ellen Manor. And it's a residential care facility for 12 disabled adults, and it's been continuously operated at this location since 1990. And it's a licensed facility, licensed by the state of California. And the minor use permit is requested to recognize the use, and there are no changes to the use proposed. This is an aerial of the facility. You can see it's got 3 buildings. There would be one caretaker residing in each of the buildings that will house the disabled adults. There is parking for guests. The residents will not be driving. The parking would be for staff and any guests that visit the site. So it's a zoned plan development, and the general plan is medium low density residential. The proposed use is allowed with the minor use permit. And here's a site plan showing a site plan, and it also shows the floor plans of the buildings. So there's a staff housing at the front, I believe the applicant has added a handicap parking stall, and I'll let the applicant clarify, but I think that's the only exterior change that's occurred on the site. There were no public comments. I got an inquiry requesting to see the plans and the project narrative, and those were provided to the person requesting it, but there were no comments or concerns related to staff about this project. This project was reviewed in compliance with CEQA, and staff has determined that the project qualifies for Class 1 exemption under Section 15301, and that the project is located within existing structures and involves negligible expansion of an existing use and will not result in significant impacts. So with that, the Planning and Economic Development Department recommends that the zoning administrator by resolution approve a minor use permit for Lee Ellen Manor located at 597 Grandberg Court, file number CUP 17097. Again, my contact information is in the bottom corner if the public would like to reach out. The applicant is present. I don't believe he has a separate presentation, but is available for any specific questions you might have on their operations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tunians. It looks like the applicant is raising his hand. Mr. Sharp, if you want to provide any comments, that would be great.
The zoning administrator Nicholson and planner Tomans. Thanks. Steve Sharp representing the applicant, Anthony Guerrero today. We've reviewed the staff report and the resolution. We agree. We agree with all the conditions there. A little more history. This has existed pretty much there since 1990. It was in the county and then annexed. After exhaustive review, we couldn't find any permits for this, to remedy the code violation here. Code violation began as part of a fire repair. There was a fire in one of the kitchens in 2017, resulted in some updates to building codes and fire codes for the buildings. And the final piece of this was to get the zoning permit, the minor use permit. So that's where we are now. There's no changes to the use. The residents are mentally disabled, totally ambulatory. They don't drive. It's a real clean facility. No other changes proposed this time. I know the applicant is, once it gets this permit, would like to go through the process to hook up to city water. It's the only thing I know that's coming down the line, but that's a totally separate thing. But this is just to recognize what's already there. Quiet use, no complaints. The building permits have all been finalized for the repair work. Be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that background and what you answered one of my questions. I was curious about sort of the history as to, the use being in operation since the 90s, but that makes sense. And just a question as it relates to the number of employees on site at any given time. So it sounds like there are four people or 4 employees and 2 live on site. Is that accurate?
There are 2 employees that live in each of the units.
Okay.
Structures, and then the owner of the property, who's also the operator, lives in the single. He and his wife live in the single family dwelling.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
The
Thank
only
you.
history that I could put together on this was, I'm guessing under the county jurisdiction, there was they were allowed 6 or fewer without permits, and it grew. And subsequent to that, but they've been licensed by the state since 1993 for 12 people. I think it originally said 14 rather than 12, but it's been amended to say 12. That's one thing I didn't notice in your resolution. The title in the resolution lists 14 residents. I think it'll be amended to 12.
Great, thank you. Ms. Tumians, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think that the reason it says 14 is just based on the city zoning code and how it breaks out the number of individuals in various community care facilities. Is that why it says 14?
Yes, I believe that's the maximum
Okay,
allowed. And
great. So, Mr. Sharp, if it's okay, maybe we can keep it in the resolution just because it mimics the language that's within the zoning code.
I understand, but that's fine.
Okay, great. So let's see, I don't have any further questions at this time, so let's move into public comment. If anyone has any comments on this item, please go ahead and click the raise hand feature on your screen.
Zoning Administrator Nicholson, there are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment for this item. I did take a look at the resolution, and I agree with the findings. It's great to know that this facility has been in operation for as long as it has been, and there have not been any issues. It certainly is a compatible use. It's a residential use in a residential area, and certainly a need for our community. So I don't have any concerns, and I appreciate the applicant being present to answer questions and Ms. Tumian's presentation. And so I'll go ahead and be approving this item today. And members of the public, please note that this action is appealable. And if you have any questions about that process, you can contact Ms. Tumians. With that, we will move on to our next item. This is a public meeting for Sonoma County Piercing Company. This project is located at 601 Mendocino Avenue, and we have the city's planning intern, Ms. Rago, giving the staff presentation today.
Thank you, Zoning Administrator Nicholson. Let me share my screen. So the project applicant is requesting a minor conditional use permit for their business, Sonoma County Piercing Company, located at 601 Mendocino Avenue. Sonoma County Piercing Company is a new business that aims to bring safe and professional piercing and high-end body jewelry to Santa Rosa. They will be Sonoma County's only piercing studio, following guidelines for membership of the Association of Professional Piercers. They will not offer tattooing. They will only offer body piercing. The location at 601 Mendocino Avenue is 2,300 square feet and will be broken up into a showroom floor / waiting area and private piercing rooms, along with sterilization offices. They will be open 7 days a week from 12 to 7 p.m. They will have between 4 to 6 employees working at a time and 9 on-site parking spaces in the parking lot, including a designated handicap parking. They look forward to bringing Santa Rosa a friendly and inviting experience for a wide selection of high-end jewelry. This aerial shows the project site highlighted in blue at the corner of Mendocino Avenue and Heldsburg Avenue. The parcel is zoned core mixed use. The principal objectives of the core mixed use designation are to strengthen the role of this area as a business, governmental and retail and entertainment hub for this region, and accommodate significant new residential development that will extend the hours of activity and create a built-in market for retail service and entertainment use. There have been no public comments made for this project. The proposed project has been reviewed in compliance with the California Environmental Equality Act and satisfies the provisions of CEQA in that this business qualifies for exemption under Section 15301, and that the project is located within an existing structure involving a negligible expansion of an existing use that will not result in significant impacts. The Planning and Economic Development Department recommends that the zoning administrator by resolution approve a minor use permit for the property located at 601 Mendocino Avenue, file number CUP 22-005. If you have any questions, please feel free to share them now. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Is the applicant for this project present? And if so, you can raise your hand if you'd like to make any comments.
Do not think the applicant is present for this project.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have one question. Just did the applicant receive the draft resolution and review the conditions?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, with that, I will go ahead and open public comment for this item. If members of the public wish to make a comment, please use the raise hand button.
Zoning Administrator Nicholson, there are no hands raised at this time.
Great, thank you. Okay, looking back at the resolution, I have reviewed it. I agree
Zoning
with.
Zoning Administrator
Oh,
Nicholson.
I need to close public comment.
Yes.
And with that, I will close public comment. I thank you for the reminder. I have reviewed the resolution. I agree with the findings. I think that we want to see more retail businesses within our downtown station area. It's great that this business will be operating and just activating the area generally during a large portion of the day and hopefully bring more activity to that area. I appreciate the conditions added to the resolution just related to loitering and also cleanup and the requirement to obtain the necessary approvals from the County Environmental Health Department. So I do think that this project, as it's conditioned, will be a good addition to our downtown area, and I will be approving it. So thank you, Ms. Arago, for your work and your presentation. And a note to the public, this approval is appealable. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to Ms. Tumians or Ms. Rago. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to our last item of the day. This is item 5.4. This is a public meeting for a conditional use permit for Bad Times Tattoo, and this project site is located at 626 4th Street, and our project planner is Mr. McKay.
Thank you, Zoning Administrator Nicholson. I will share my screen. Yeah, so good morning, everybody. This is a minor conditional use permit application for Bad Times Tattoo located at 626 4th Street. This is a minor conditional use permit request that would allow the operation of a tattoo studio, which is classified as a personal services restricted land use with private appointments for 3 to 5 customers per day and hours of operation from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. from Tuesday through Saturday. The property is located in the core mixed use downtown station area combining district zoning district, which allows the operation of personal services restricted land uses with the approval of a minor conditional use permit. Here we have a sketch of the site plan of the interior of the building. We have not received any public comments about this project. The proposed project has been reviewed in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, and satisfies the provisions of CEQA, and that the construction, oh, this is not updated, I apologize for that. It says the construction of a fence, but it's actually the operation of this land use qualifies for a Class 1 exemption in that the proposed operation would occur within an existing commercial building with negligible expansion of a former use that would not result in significant impacts. With that, the Planning and Economic Development Department recommends the zoning administrator by resolution approve the minor conditional use permit for the operation of Bad Times Tattoo located at 626 4th Street, file number CUP 21-078. And the applicant is available to answer any questions, but does not have any presentation to make at this time.
Thank you, Planner McKay. I understand that the applicant doesn't want to provide a presentation, but just an opportunity. If they'd like to add in any comments, they can go ahead and raise their hand. Okay, not seeing any hands being raised. So I have reviewed the resolution and I agree with the findings. Again, like the previous item, it's a retail business that will help to add some activity to our downtown, and so that's definitely appreciated. It seems like it will be, like you mentioned with the CEQA exemption, you know, a negligible change from the previous tenant, and also with just the appointment basis, seems like activity will be well controlled. And as it relates to parking, this is within our downtown station area specific plan, so there's no minimum parking spaces required. Just a question for you, Planner McKay, has the applicant reviewed the resolution?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I failed to provide the applicant with the resolution until just the previous item when I was reminded, but there are no specific conditions that are related to the project besides the requirement to get an environmental health permit, which is a requirement for these types of land uses. And I want to make sure that we don't forget to open the public comment as well.
Yes. Thank you. Can the applicant just indicate that they've received the resolution or that they're comfortable with what Planner McKay has just described?
Hello.
Okay. Hi.
Hi. Sorry, it cut out right while you were speaking. But what were you asking? I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. I just wanted to make sure Planner McKay had indicated that he recently sent over the resolution. The draft resolution, which contains some conditions. I wanted to check to see if you've seen it. It sounds like it just came over, but he did describe the condition to obtain an approval from the County Environmental Health Department. So it sounds like the conditions, or I would describe the conditions as straightforward, but just wanted to make sure.
Yes, I'm looking at the email right now. I received it, and as soon as we're done with this meeting, my plan was to call the health department and get like the next things moving that I need to get done. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Okay, and with that, we'll go ahead and open up public comment for this item. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand.
Zoning Administrator Nicholson, there are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Planner McKay, for the reminder. Okay, so again, I don't have any concerns with this project. I think that it implements the vision for downtown. Happy to see any vacant retail spaces be used. And I think this is conditioned appropriately and it's straightforward. So I will be approving this minor conditional use permit and wish you luck and getting your permits from the county health department. Just as a reminder, this item is appealable, and if you wish to submit an appeal, please contact Planner McKay. So that concludes item 5.4, which is our last meeting item for today. So we will move on to item 6, which is adjournment. And I've been saying this all day, but just a reminder, each of these actions or approvals today are appealable within 10 days of the decision. So please reach out to the project planner if you have any questions about that. Appreciate everyone's attendance today, and